So hello everyone, this is C Ashish Kedia and now we move on to our chapter 2 unit 3 wherein we are going to talk about supply. This topic, having done demand, it's really a very easy topic, very simple to understand and much like demand. When I say it's much like demand, obviously there are some differences, but when I say much like demand, the topics of choice are the same, right? Now coming back to the topic. So, whenever we study supply, we got to know something that we will always think from whose point of view. We always got to think from producer's POV. While we were in demand, I had mentioned that we were thinking from consumer's point of view. But having come to this topic supply, we are going to think from producer's point of view. This is the first thing you got to remember. Now, when we had studied demand, we had spoken about demand is the ability and willingness to buy a particular commodity at a particular price, right? Supply is about the readiness of the producer to sell. Please note that there is a difference between stock and supply. If I have a go down, let's say, wherein I am storing 5,000 units of bag, okay, 5,000 units of bags I am storing. Now friends, suppose the bag is selling at 1,000 rupees per bag, right? Suppose the bag is selling at 1,000 rupees per bag. Now you got to know something. Maybe the price of the bag is 1,000 rupees per bag. As a producer, I am expecting the price of bag to rise in the future. Naturally, if I'm expecting the price of bag to rise in the future, maybe at the current price of 1,000 rupees per bag, I would be ready to say, let's say 2,000 pieces. The idea is that the remaining 3,000 pieces I will sell when the price of bag rises in the future. So friends, the crux of the matter is that the 2,000 units that the producers are able and willing to bring to the market for sale, the quantity which the producers are able and willing to bring to the market for sale at the existing price is the supply. So here the supply will be 2,000 units which the producers are able and willing to bring to the market for sale. It would not be the entire quantity of 5,000 units. Yes, the stock will be of the remaining 3,000 bags, but supply is of 2,000 bags. Yes sir, we have understood this. Now, as I had already spoken in the previous lectures, whatever I'll be highlighting in yellow, it would be very important from the examination perspective, so we got to pay attention, right? Supply refers to what a firm offer for sale in the market. Please pay attention, not necessarily what they succeed in selling. So maybe, pay attention everybody, maybe the firms were ready to sell. In my example, for example, I had taken 2,000 units, firm were ready to sell. Suppose they brought into market 2,000 units and they were able to sell 500 units. A very good MCQ can come in the exam that okay, the producers were ready to sell 2,000 units, but they actually end up selling 500 units. So what is the quantity supplied? A mistake student does is that student thinks that okay, the producer has just sold 500 units, so 500 units must be the supply. No, supply is not equal to quantity sold. No, quantity sold is a different concept altogether. Supply is about how much the producer was ready to sell. Here we are going to talk about ability and readiness to sell. Yes sir, we have understood. It's indeed a good point. Next, supply requires both willingness and ability. The same was in the case of demand. But demand required ability and willingness from whose point of view? Demand required ability and willingness from the consumer's point of view. Supply requires ability and willingness from the producer's point of view. And supply is a flow concept. Very, very important concept. Very, very important question. The question can appear in an exam in the form of MCQ that supply is a dash concept, and they will give you options like stock concept, they will give you options like flow concept, both none. Remember, supply is a flow concept because stock concept talks about something at a point of time, but supply talks about period of time. So remember, I repeat, remember, very, very important, supply is a flow concept because it is going to be really important. Now, determinants of supply. Sir, what do you mean by determinants of supply? Friends, determinants of supply means factors affecting the supply of a commodity. Number one, it's the own price of the commodity. Now think from the producer's point of view. I repeat, don't think from the consumer's point of view. If the price of a commodity rises, I will be ready to sell more units. Why? Because if price has risen, the assumption is that cost has not, because other factors remain constant. So if price of a commodity rises, then as a producer, my profit margin is rising. And if price is rising, profit margin is rising. So naturally the willingness to supply will also increase or will go up. So number one is price of the good. Second point is price of related goods. Indeed, another good point. So first of all, other things being equal, means other factors remaining constant, higher the price of a good, greater the quantity of it that will be supplied, right? Now, price of related goods. So suppose related goods, I'll give you an example. A farmer in his particular farm is growing rice, paddy. Now they come to realize that wheat offers them higher profits. Wheat offers them higher profit. The farmer realizes that not rice but wheat offers them higher profit. What will the farmer do? Come on, the farmer is going to shift to wheat. So the production of rice is going to fall. Why? Because with the limited resources, the farmer would find it more profitable to produce another commodity whose profits are rising. And this is what is mentioned here. Producers will allocate more resources towards its production. Which production? The production of related goods, even by drawing resources from other goods they produce. For example, a rise in price of comic books will encourage publisher to shift resources from books like novels to the production of comic books. So production of comics book will rise and production of novels will fall. Understood, sir? Price of factors of production. You can consider it as a raw material cost. Friends, price of factors of production, you can consider it as a raw material cost, because if my factor of production cost increases, what will happen? Come on, tell me. If cost of production increases, my profit margin will fall. My profit margin will fall. I repeat, if cost of production rises, my profit margin will fall. Therefore, my willingness to supply will reduce. So in the case of factors of production, there is inverse relationship that we see. Why? Because if the input prices rises, then the profit margin falls. So a rise in price of input causes a decrease in supply, is what I mentioned. Understood? So there is inverse relationship. In short, moving on. State of technology, a very easy topic indeed. If a technology is new, it's not obsolete. Obsolete means old technology. Guys, if a technology is new, it's modern, therefore supply will rise. So if you increase the production use of new technology, the supply is going to rise. And if you use obsolete technology, the supply is going to fall. Understood, sir? Next is government policy. Government policy. Now friends, there are 2 points that comes under government policy. One is taxes and the other one is subsidies. Remember something here, when we talk about taxes, a very important point here, when we are talking about taxes, in demand also we were talking about taxes, but those were income taxes. Here when we talk about supply, or we are in supply, we are talking about taxes. We are not talking about direct taxes, we are talking about indirect taxes like GST. Suppose price of a product is 100 rupees, that is decided in the market. Initially we used to pay tax as 20 rupees, just assume. So let's say the profit margin would be 80. Obviously, ideally I should have deducted the cost of production, but to keep things simple, I am saying my cost of production was 80 and price was 20. Okay, let's keep some profit margin. So let's keep cost of production as 70. All right. So 70, 20, 90. So 10 would be the profit. I repeat, 100 was the price, 20 was the taxes included in that price, and 70 was the cost of production. So naturally, the producer is taking home 10 rupees. Now, if government decides, okay, instead of 20 rupees taxes, we are going to charge 30 rupees. And guess what? Cost of production is still at 70. All the profits are wiped away. So why would the producer want to supply more? So in simple language, if taxes meaning indirect taxes like GST, if they increase, the profit margin falls. If indirect taxes increase, the profit margin falls. Acha, you people may ask that, sir, what the government can do is, government can accordingly increase the prices. What did I say? All are assumed to be constant. Only taxes are increasing. So naturally, profit margin is falling and therefore quantity supplied will fall. Understood, sir? Or supply will decrease. To the contrary, so remember, indirect taxes have what kind of relation? Inverse relationship with supply. Indirect taxes have inverse relation with supply. But guess what? There is something which is the opposite of taxes. What is the opposite of taxes? Come on. Opposite of taxes, dear students, is subsidies. Sir, what happens in subsidies? Let me illustrate it for you. Let me give an example. Suppose 100 rupees is the price of a product. Subsidy means that government is telling the producers that, okay, producers, you are doing a really good job, so you don't have to bear the entire cost, let us bear some cost. So what the producer does is, the producer bears, let's say, 30 rupees. The government bears 30 rupees on behalf of the producer. So naturally, the cost for the producer is how much? If the government is paying 30 rupees, the cost for the producer is 70. Suppose the producer was selling this at 120. Now, initially 100 and 120, the producer's profit used to be 20 rupees. In the world where there was no subsidies. Now, thanks to subsidies, what is the actual cost for the producer? Now, the actual cost for the producer is 70 only, because out of 100, government is bearing 30. So now the producer is naturally earning 50 rupees. So what would happen if the subsidies increase? Come on, tell me what would happen. What do you think will happen? If subsidies increase, then quantity supplied is going to rise. Why? Because if subsidies increase, then the cost of production is going down. Sir, we have understood this. So simply consider taxes. Consider taxes like a cost. Long story short, consider taxes like a cost. If cost rises, supply falls. Consider subsidy like a income, or profit. If profit rises, supply rises. So therefore, my dear students, subsidy has a direct relationship. Subsidy has a direct relationship with supply. On the other hand, taxes have an inverse relationship with supply. We have understood this, sir. Now, nature of competition. Obviously, if there are many producers, supply will be more. If there is a single producer, supply will be less. So it's very easy. And expectations regarding future prices is indeed a good point. Suppose a firm is expecting that in future, price of the product that the firm is selling is going to fall. What will the firm do? I repeat my question. Suppose you have a stock of 5,000 units. You are now of the opinion that the price of these products in 1 month's time is going to fall. What would you do? Would you still stock those commodities, or would you want to sell those commodities as soon as possible? Obviously, sir, we are going to want to sell it as soon as possible. The reason being that if we sell it at a later date, we might earn lesser profits or we might run into losses. So therefore, to cut long story short, if expectation regarding future price about future is expected to rise, if 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 price about future is expected to rise, then current quantity supplied is going to fall. Or is it going to increase? Sir, see, if price about future is going to rise, then when would I want to sell? I would want to sell it in the future. So what will happen to the current quantity supplied? The current quantity supplied is going to go down. Understood, sir? And if price of the future, that is expected price of the future, is going to fall, then what would I want to do? I would want to supply more at the present. So again, future price is inversely related to current quantity supplied. Come on, golden statement, note it down. Future price expectation is inversely related to current quantity supplied. Future price expectation is inversely related to current quantity supplied. Because if I expect price in the future to rise, I am going to reduce the quantity supplied today in order to sell it in the future at a higher price. Understood? फिर से, future price expectation is inversely related to current quantity supplied. Right, sir. Right, sir. So if price in the future is expected to fall, quantity supplied at the present is expected to rise. Sir, we have understood this indeed. Very good. Very, very good. So now let's move on to the next law of supply. The law of supply is indeed a very simple concept. What does it say? The law of supply tells us that if price of a commodity is going to rise, other factors remaining constant, quantity supplied is also going to rise. And if price is expected to fall, other factors remaining constant, quantity supplied is also going to fall. It's that easy. That is what law of supply says. Therefore, in demand, you used to have an inverse curve. But guess what? In supply, you have a upward sloping curve because of direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. Why? Because of direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. Why? Because of direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. So there is an upward sloping curve. There is an upward sloping curve. Why? Due to direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. Understood, sir? Now, having said this, this is the upward sloping supply curve, which you would already know. Now, there are two concepts here, much like demand. These two concepts are much like demand, so pay attention, everybody. The two concepts in the case of supply are movement versus shift. Movement versus shift. Pay attention. If there is a change in quantity supplied due to own price of the commodity, if there is a change in quantity supplied due to own price of the commodity, if there is a change in quantity supplied due to own price of the commodity, we are in the world of movement. But if there is a change in supply, remember, movement is also called, this is something you got to remember, movement is also called change in quantity supplied, while shift is also called change in supply. While shift is also called change in supply. Both are not the same. In the case of movement, students, when price is rising or falling, quantity supplied is rising or falling. So movement is due to own price, other factors remaining constant. Movement is due to own price, other factors remaining constant, while shift is due to other factors, own price remaining constant. And as usual, in the case of movement, there are two types: expansion of supply and contraction of supply. I will show it to you again. In the case of movement, there are two concepts: expansion and contraction. Remember, much like in demand. So there is expansion of supply and then there is contraction of supply. So if price rises, quantity supplied also rises. So here there is an upward movement along the same curve. Very important point. In the case of expansion of supply, there is upward movement along the same supply curve. But in the case of expansion of demand, there is not upward movement along the same demand curve. There used to be downward movement along the same demand curve. So remember this. I repeat, it's a very important point. In the case of expansion of supply, there is upward movement along the same supply curve. But in the case of expansion of demand, there was downward movement along the same demand curve. And in the case of contraction, there is downward movement along the same supply curve, contraction of supply. But in the case of contraction of demand, there used to be upward movement along the same demand curve. Right, sir? And shift? Just like movement has two types, expansion of supply and contraction of supply, shift has two types: increase in supply and decrease in supply. In case of increase in supply, as you already know, the supply curve will shift rightward, and in case of decrease in supply, the supply curve will shift leftward. This is something we got to remember. In case of increase, there is a rightward shift, as I had mentioned here, and in case of decrease, there is a leftward shift. Can you tell us why, sir? Okay, chalo, I'll tell you why. See, at the end of the day, let's plot a graph for price versus quantity supplied. Have a look here. Have a look here. Come on, pay attention. See, if I draw price and quantity supplied graph, suppose this was the OG graph, the original graph. Now, price is constant. What did I say? When we talk about increase or decrease in supply, price remains constant, right? So this was the original condition, right? Now maybe you tell me something, government is giving more subsidies, what will happen to supply? It will increase, because think of subsidy like a profit, think of tax like a cost. So if subsidy rises, supply is going to rise, not rise, increase, and so there will be a right. And so this was original quantity, now this is the new quantity. So P1 and Q2, where are they intersecting? They are intersecting here. Pay attention, they are intersecting somewhere here this time, and so supply curve will go through this. And can you see this rightward shift here? Yes, this is increase, and similarly in case of decrease there would be a leftward shift of supply curve. Sir, we remember this. Now, much like demand, much like much like elasticity of demand, we have elasticity of supply. What is the formula of elasticity of supply? The formula of elasticity of supply is 2. We use percentage method here, and here also there are 5 methods, much like the 5 methods under elasticity of demand. What are the 5 different types? See, elasticity here is percentage change in quantity supplied by percentage change in price. Or you can also refer it as, change in price, wait, change in quantity, just a moment, change in quantity by change in price into original price by original quantity. Sir, this formula is same as demand, yes, but there's a difference. Whenever you used to compute elasticity of demand, naturally price elasticity of demand used to be what? Negative or positive? It used to be negative because of inverse relationship between price and demand. But naturally elasticity of supply is positive. Why? Because of direct relationship between the two. Why? Because of direct relationship between the two. Right, sir? So for example, suppose the price rises from 2000 to 2100. So what is the change in price? The change in price is 100. And what was the OG price, the original price? The original price was 2000. What is the change in quantity? The change in quantity, dear students, is from 2500 to 3000. So it's changing by 500 units. And what was the original quantity? Friends, the original quantity was how much? 2500. And guess what? When I compute elasticity of supply, it is change in quantity, which is 500, by change in price, which is 100, into original price by original quantity, which is 2000, by 2500. Now friends, if you compute it, you get 5 here, 400 here, and 4 here. And naturally elasticity of supply is positive. Why? Because of direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. Because when price rises, other factors remaining constant, profit margin rises, so supply will also rise. What are the different types of price elasticity, sir, of supply? One is the case of perfectly inelastic supply. What does it mean, sir? Despite the change in price, there will be no change in quantity supplied. Is that possible in real life? Yes. In fact, note it, this is also an exception to the law of supply. Let's consider the original painting of Mona Lisa. Original painting is one. Somebody is bidding for it 100 crores. Another gentleman comes and tells 500 crores. So will another Mona Lisa be reborn or what? There will be no original painting again. And what I'm trying to say is, no matter the change in price, quantity supplied is going to remain the same. And so remember two things. In the case of perfectly inelastic supply, the value of elasticity is 0. It is a vertical supply curve and it is parallel to y-axis, because this is the y-axis. Despite the change in price, you see quantity supplied has remained the same. It's a vertical curve, therefore. Moving on. Let's take the other one. So perfectly inelastic supply, what is the value of elasticity? 0. Relatively less elastic supply, yes, a good one. Relatively less elastic supply, a good one. Here there is change in both price and supply, but who is more powerful? Price. So percentage change in price is greater than percentage change in supply. I repeat, percentage change in price is greater than percentage change in supply. That, my dear friends, is the case of relatively less elastic supply. And now, one thing students tend to falter at is the value. Friends, for it, the value lies between 0 to 1. Very important. The value of less elastic supply, or relatively less elastic supply, it is also called relatively inelastic supply. Sir, but what about graph? I will show it to you. See, This is P1. Let's assume this is Q1. Now come on guys, tell me something. Who is changing with a greater percentage, with greater vigor? Price. So let's keep a greater gap between price. Quantity is not changing with that vigor. Obviously, if price rises, quantity is rising, but a little. And so the intersection is taking place in such a manner that if we extend this curve, it will seem to cross the x-axis. If we intersect this curve, it is going to intersect the x-axis. You know why? Because see, I will show it to you again. Hold on. Let me draw it here. This is the original price, okay? P1. This is the original quantity Q1, okay? No problem. They are intersecting here. In relatively inelastic supply, who is changing with a greater percentage? Come on guys, price. So if price is changing with a greater percentage, quantity is also rising, but little. So Q1 is going to rise to Q2, but will it rise by a larger amount? No, with a very meager amount. And therefore when you plot it, and therefore when you end up plotting it, you get a curve like this, a narrow curve. So remember, relatively less elastic supply tend to have a narrow or a steep curve, which seems, if extended, is going to intersect the x-axis, though it does not, but it seems like it is going to intersect the x-axis. When we come to relatively elastic supply or large elasticity, then the value is greater than 1 extends to infinity. Here the curve is flatter, and it seems to intersect the y-axis. A very good question that can come: which type of elasticity seems to intersect the y-axis? Remember, a very important question. So remember, if it is about y-axis, which relatively elastic supply? If it was about x-axis, the MCQ answer would be relatively inelastic supply. Please don't discount the importance of this topic. Come on guys. Here percentage change in supply is at a greater percentage than percentage change in price, right? So this is a flat curve, and it seems the curve is going to cross the y-axis. In the case of inelastic supply, it was crossing the x-axis. In the relatively elastic supply, it is crossing the y-axis. Remember that. Okay, sir. What is unit elastic supply? Good boy. Here percentage change in quantity supplied is equal to percentage change in price. So the value of elasticity is naturally 1. So nothing doing here. And it is going to cross the origin. So which type of elasticity passes through the origin? If they give you in the exam, then don't come and tell me, sir, we did it wrong. If it's through the origin, it's always unitary elastic supply. It's always, if it's through the origin, then it is always going to be unitary elastic supply. It's always going to be unitary elastic supply. Remember that. Now, what is perfectly elastic supply? Here, opposite of perfectly inelastic supply. Here, there is no change in price. Still, supply is changing. You know why will it happen? When there is a change in price, when there is a change in supply due to other factors. For example, price is here, P1, quantity Q1 is here. I have plotted this. Now let's say government has announced more subsidy. Has my price changed? No. But will my supply rise? Yes. And therefore you get a horizontal curve parallel to x-axis. And remember something, in the case of perfectly elastic supply, you get the value of infinity. How, sir? Because guys, elasticity is what? Percentage change in quantity supplied by percentage change in price. So naturally, if there is a change in quantity but no change in price, anything by 0 is how much? Infinity. And therefore it's a horizontal curve parallel to x-axis. Remember, and the value will be infinity. A very important topic is what we have discussed. And now we come to our discussion on arc elasticity. See, arc elasticity is nothing. Just like under percentage method, how we were computing change in quantity by change in price into original price by original quantity. Yes or no? In arc elasticity, the formula will be change in quantity by change in price into P1 plus P2 by Q1 plus Q2. That is the only change, no other change. That is arc elasticity method. This is yet another method of measuring price elasticity of supply only. Okay, sir. And now moving on to, dear students, the last topic which will complete supply. Okay, see, what are the factors affecting elasticity of supply? I will tell you something. Whenever you study any factor, just remember one thing in mind. Is it possible for the producer to change quantity supplied with large amounts? If it's possible, it is elastic supply. If it's not possible for the producer to change supply by large quantities, then guess what, guys? It is a case of inelastic supply. Sir, repeat kijiye. So now, friends, I'll repeat it again for you. If it is possible for the producer to increase or decrease supply as per their whims and wishes, they can, then it is a case of elastic supply. But if the producer is not able to make much change in the quantity supplied, then it is a case of inelastic supply. Now let's come to the topic of factors affecting elasticity of supply. Now, if increase in production causes substantial increase in costs, right? Now, if there are substantial increase in costs, will the producer be able to supply more? No. So the supply, in that case, elasticity of supply would be less. So when will the elasticity be less? When there is a fast increase in price. But if prices are almost constant or there are negligible changes in costs, then the producers will be able to supply more because the costs are not changing. So the producer will be able to supply more. But if costs rise rapidly, producers won't be able to do much, and therefore the supply would be less. So remember, elasticity will be less. Crux, come on. Elasticity will be less when there is a faster rise in costs. But when the rise in costs is very little or minimal or meager, then there would be elastic supply, because then the producers will be kind of able to revamp their production, increase their production as per their wishes. Right, sir? Time period, another factor affecting elasticity of supply. Tell me, guys, tell me something. You all think, in the short run and in the long run, when does the producer have more room to increase supply? Tell me, come on. Come on, you tell me. When does the producer have more room to increase supply? During the long term, and therefore elasticity will be high during the long term. But during the short term, the producer doesn't have, much ability to adjust their supply, right? Because of the, again, the short period. So during short period, elasticity is low. During larger period, elasticity is high. During short period, elasticity is low. During long period, elasticity is high. Yes, sir, we have understood this. Understood. Next, sir. Barriers to entry. Come on, tell me something. If there are little barriers to entry in the market, supply would be high. So therefore elasticity would be high. So supply elasticity is higher when there are few barriers of entry. But if there are many barriers to entry, will the producer be able to supply more? No. So elasticity will be low. So high barriers, low elasticity. Low barriers, high elasticity. High barriers, low elasticity of supply. Low barriers, high elasticity of supply. Understood, sir? Next is very interesting. Spare production capacity is existing or not. Spare capacity means, suppose a firm has capacity to produce 1000 units in their factory. Firm is producing only 600 units. Now tell me something. If spare capacity exists, will the producer be able to supply more? Yes. So elasticity will be high. But if there is no spare capacity, firm is producing at 1000 units only. Even if they want to, will they be able to supply more? No, because of production constraint, resource constraint, they won't be able to. So if spare capacity is there, elasticity will be high because supply can be adjusted. Understood, sir? Next is easy availability of raw materials. Tell me something. If raw material is easily available, tell me something. If raw material is easily available, supply will be high, elasticity of supply will be high or low? Friends, if raw material is easily available, then the producer will easily be able to supply, so elasticity will be high. The only standpoint where you have to think from is whether the producer is able to adjust his or her supply or not. If in case of easy availability of raw material, naturally they will be able to supply more. Yes, sir, we are with you. We are understanding what you're trying to say. If if firms have adequate stock of raw materials, then elasticity will be high. If they don't have adequate stock, elasticity will be low. Next, ease with which factor substitution can be made. Suppose I have machine 1. I was producing something. Now I want to shift this machine 1 to some other use. From use 1 to use 2. In such a case, elasticity will be high because it is easily possible to shift the use. But if factor substitution is not possible, that is, the same machine cannot be put to other use, elasticity will be low because we cannot change much in supply terms. And mobility of capital and labor. Come on, if capital and labor are easily movable from one place to another, we can change the supply, so elasticity will be high. So if high mobility, high elasticity. Come on, high mobility, high elasticity. Low mobility, low elasticity. Yes sir, we have understood. And last is equilibrium price, a very easy point indeed. The price, see, normally you all know that equilibrium is determined at a point where quantity demanded becomes equal to quantity supplied. Now suppose price is 5 rupees, high price, so demand will be low but supply will be high. Price reduces, demand rises but supply falls. There comes a point in time where demand and supply become equal, which is at price of 3 rupees. This is the equilibrium point. And how does the diagram look? This is the demand curve, this is the supply curve. They become equal at this point, right? Here this point is 3 rupees. So this is called the equilibrium price and this is the equilibrium quantity. Sir, we have indeed understood this. This is the concept of equilibrium. And guess what, guys? And guess what? With that being said and done, this brings us to the end of our concept of supply.